dark and difficult times lie ahead. Soon we must all face the choice between what is right and what is easy.
So, I was asked a question today by one of the regular commenters on the channel, CCTV in operation. And he asked me, he said, why is it that if I have a CCTV in my home and it happens to point to the road and footpath, then I may be subject to data protection laws? But if I'm on the footpath with a camera, I can film cars and people all day long while not subject to data protection laws. Now, I didn't necessarily know the answer to that. I thought that as a private person, you weren't subjected to data protection laws, and it was only corporations or businesses, which is what I said in response. Now, CCTV in operation responded that it was after reading this link. So I went to have a look at the link, and I'm a little bit confused and concerned as to why the information from the ICO conflicts with information from the police. Now, what I mean by that is, this is the ICO Information Commissioner's Office website. Domestic CCTV systems, guidance for people using closed circuit television. There are many domestic CCTV systems on the market to help you protect your home. If you're thinking of using one, you need to make sure that you do so in a way that respects other people's privacy. Well, if somebody's breaking into your home, then they're invading your privacy, number one. Number two, you may have a boundary around your property, and you may need to see whether people are scoping your property, checking it out for a future job. People that are going to do that don't deserve any privacy, seeing as they're looking to invade yours. Let's continue. If you set up a system so it captures only images within the boundary of your private domestic property, including your garden, then the data protection laws will not apply to you. But what if your system captures images of people outside the boundary of your private domestic property? For example, in neighbours' homes or gardens, shared spaces, or on a public footpath or street. And what gets me here is that some people have a shared driveway. They might have garages at the side of the house, but they might share one driveway. And they, so that means if you put up your CCTV camera to watch that shared driveway, you're then subject to data protection laws. Also, I can understand nobody's going to set their camera up to purposely focus on somebody's property across the road, for example, or the neighbour's garden. But if it picks it up incidentally while you're monitoring your own space, then, what can you do? Why should you be subject to corporation rules when clearly you're trying to protect your property and the rest of it's incidental? Then the General Data Protection Regulation and the Data Protection Act 2018 will apply to you, and you will need to ensure the use of CCTV complies with these laws. This guidance refers to them as data protection laws. Regardless of whether or not the use of CCTV falls within the DPA laws, the ICO recommends you use it responsibly to protect the privacy of others. I think, again, most people are going to be responsible. They're not going to set up their CCTV to purposely and fully concentrate on a neighbour's property, for example. And most CCTV cameras aren't good enough to see clearly what's going on across the street through somebody's window, for example. So what does private domestic property mean? It means the boundary of the property, including the garden where you live. This can include rented property or a private space in a communal residential dwelling, such as a flat or a private room in a residential care home. Now again, this means that if you live in a block of flats and you have a hallway where other people's doors to their flats are, it means if you put a camera outside your door, you're subject to data protection laws, which I think is a little bit silly. So how can you use CCTV responsible at your property? You should ask yourself whether CCTV is actually the best way to improve your home security. Well, apart from putting a fucking guillotine on every single window that's triggered when somebody tries to come through it, then I would suggest that CCTV is probably the best way to improve home security, along with the normal making sure your locks are high quality, making sure windows and doors are locked when you go out, etc. CCTV is key in any incident that the police are trying to investigate. Hence why they always ask for camera footage. Do I really need CCTV? Yes. Are there other things I could do to protect my home, such as better lighting? Well, why would you bother with better lighting if you haven't got a CCTV camera to pick up the fucker who's trying to break into your house? Or petrol bomb your house, as was the case in the news a couple of days ago here in Liverpool. What is the most privacy-friendly way to set up the system? Who gives a fuck? I mean, seriously, who cares what the most privacy-friendly way to set up a system is? What is the most secure way to set up a system? Would be my question. What is the best way to ensure that you catch the fuckers who are trying to break in or trying to steal your car or trying to hurt you? What areas do I want the cameras to capture? Well, clearly, any area you want around your property, front and back and side maybe. I don't know, but okay, this is ridiculous. Can I position the cameras to avoid intruding on my neighbour's property or any shared or public spaces? Well, you can, but the problem with that, because of the way cameras are designed and the range of view that they have, you are never going to get a camera that completely focuses on the shape of your garden. You're always going to get some overlapping. And if you do focus your camera solely on your garden, you're only going to be able to get a portion of your garden. You're not going to be able to get an image of the edges. So you need to have a camera that's pointing that is going to incidentally capture some pathway, maybe a few foot of your neighbour's garden or a shared driveway, or even the property across the road if you park your car in the street and you want your camera to see that as well. Do I need to record the images or is a live feed enough? Don't be fucking stupid. Of course you're going to need to record the images. If you're at home, right, then number one, especially if you've got like a lounge at the front of the house, for example, and it's daytime, you're going to be able to see, maybe hear people doing stuff. If it's nighttime and you're asleep or you're at work, then what's the point of a fucking live feed? So yes, recorded images are necessary. Has my CCTV system got an audio recording facility? Audio recording is very privacy intrusive, so in most cases where householders use CCTV, they should disable audio recording. Another pile of shit, if you ask me, because if somebody comes to your door and in this day of age, okay, or in this day and age, where people are accused of all of these different types of hate crimes, if somebody comes to your door and you're one of the protected classes, then you haven't got an audio recording, for example, then you can't hear what's being said. You've got no way of proving that. Or if the police come to your door and they're breaking the law themselves, you've got no way of being able to hear their threats or their lies to enter your property. So fuck you, ICO. And yes, audio recording is important. I mean, what the fuck is the ICO doing about Google and Facebook and all the rest of it, Amazon, recording us whenever they want through our mobile phones? Fuck all. So think about the problem you're trying to tackle. It will usually be to safeguard you and your property against crime. Check your local police advice about crime prevention. Well, as you say in the next sentence, better lock, security lighting or an alarm system may be more effective and less expensive ways of securing your property. They might be, but they're not the best. And they're not going to be able to, if somebody breaks into your house with a pair of gloves on and, a pair of old trainers that they're going to throw away afterwards so they can't be matched to them or burn them, right? Then how else are you going to catch the criminal? You need the footage. And the police suggest having CCTV cameras where you can. This does not mean that you're breaking the law, but it does mean that as a CCTV user, you are a data controller, so you will need to comply with your legal obligations under the data protection or laws. Right, so if it's not breaking the law, why do you need to comply with legal obligations under the data protection laws? If you don't comply with your legal obligations under the data protection laws, then you're breaking the data protection law. So this just does not make any sense whatsoever. You can still capture images, but you need to show that you're doing it in ways that comply with the data protection laws and uphold the rights of the people whose images you're capturing. Now, I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea, to be honest. Having a sign that says that you've got video recording equipment is not a bad idea. That alone could be a deterrent to criminals or to the police coming to your door to falsely arrest you or to charge you, accuse you. However, I don't think that it's necessarily important to, go and put a fucking big A-board outside your house on the pavement saying, I have cameras. Some people don't have anywhere to put I have CCTV sign on the boundary of their property. Therefore, putting it on your door or a little note in the window, a little sign or something should be enough. What must I do if I capture images of people outside my own home and garden? Well, instantly go and upload it to YouTube and mock them. I mean, what the fuck do you think people are going to do? Generally speaking, if you capture images of people outside your own home and garden, unless they're trying to break in or unless they're doing something that generally breaks the law, no fucker's ever going to see it apart from the person who owns the CCTV. And again, if you break the law, you don't deserve any privacy. So if you capture images beyond your property boundary, you should have a clear and justifiable reason for doing so. In particular, you will need to think why you need those images. If asked by an individual or the ICO, you will need to be able to explain your reasons. So you should write them down now. Yeah, because we're all so fucking stupid, we won't remember the reasons why we installed CCTV. You should also write down why you think capturing images is more important than invading the privacy of your neighbours and passers-by. Well, pretty sure that securing yourself, securing your life, making sure you're not injured, attacked, or have your house robbed or your car stolen, I think that's pretty much more important than capturing a passerby as they walk past the fucking picture. I mean, let's think about it, guys. How many times have we seen missing people on the news and they show a video clip of somebody's CCTV as the person walks past the house and saying this was the last known sighting of this person? I've seen it plenty of times. And what are they going to do if they then can't do that? How difficult is it going to be to track down missing people or criminals if you can't see where they've gone? The ICO are fucking ridiculous. So you will also need to let people know you are using CCTV by putting up signs saying that recording is taking place and why. I don't see why you have to tell them why, to be quite honest. I just don't see the reason in that. It's nobody's business why you're recording. Absolutely nobody's business at all. The same as if you're recording in the street with a video camera or a camera phone. Ensure you don't capture more footage than you need to achieve your purpose in using the system. Again, I don't quite understand that, because the reason it's on is because you can't sit there watching it all the time. People have got jobs to go to, people have got to sleep, people can't sit at the window or, you know, at the front of the house and the back of the house and the side of the house waiting and watching for people to break in. Ensure the security of the footage you capture. In other words, holding it securely and making sure nobody can watch it without good reason. Well, generally speaking, it's going to be recorded to a hard drive, which is exactly what businesses do, and the police. Only keep the footage for as long as you need it. Delete it regularly and when it's no longer needed. Well, again, I think most people will record, you know, for the day, then review it. If there's nothing happening, then they'll use, you know, right over it. Ensure the CCTV is only operated in ways you intend and can't be misused for other reasons. Anyone you share your property with, such as family members who could use the equipment, needs to know the importance of not misusing it. Well, again, I don't see why anybody would put anybody on YouTube or Facebook or whatever just because they've walked past the property. You know, if somebody comes to your door, then you can do what you want. They're on your property. That's, you know, they're invading your privacy at that point. So fuck them. If, again, if you capture them outside just walking past, then who's going to upload that to the interweb? And it's just ridiculous. You also need to make sure you respect the data protection rights of the people whose images you capture. This includes the following things: responding to subject access requests. If you receive any, individuals have a right to access the personal data you hold about them, including identifiable images. They can ask you verbally or in writing. You must respond within 1 month and give them a copy of the data. It just said above, right here, only keep the footage for as long as you need it, delete it regularly and when it's no longer needed. Now, if you are the type of person to record over the same file every day until you find something that is worth keeping, and then somebody requests a subject access request, you're going to then turn around and say, well, I don't have it anymore. And if they don't believe you, they'll ask you for an appeal. A private person, I'd like to ask you to appeal the decision that you've just given me by re-looking at it yourself. What the fuck? And then if you still say, I've not got the footage, it's been deleted, they can then go to the ICO and the ICO will come knocking on your door. What a fucking palaver. What an absolute joke. Deleting footage of people if they ask you to do so. You should do this within 1 month. So if you capture a criminal on your device, You might not even know they're a criminal. For example, if somebody's just committed a crime and on their way out, you know, they go past your property and you've just recorded them and they notice you've got a camera. If they then come and knock on your door the following day and say, excuse me, I've noticed you've got a camera. I walked past the other day. Can you delete that footage? And can you delete the footage of me coming and knocking on your door today? Thank you very much. See you later. You've just now destroyed evidence. It says you can refuse to delete it if you specifically need to keep it for a genuine legal dispute. But you might not know that there's a genuine legal dispute happening or about to happen. In which case you need to tell them this and also tell them they can challenge this in court or complain to the ICO. Consider any objection you get now from particular people about capturing their image in the future. Given the nature of CCTV systems, this may be very difficult to do. However, you should again think whether you need to record images beyond your property boundary, particularly if your system is capturing images from a neighbour's home or garden. Again, as I've said just now, if you set up a CCTV camera to capture the whole of your garden, you are inevitably going to capture some of your neighbouring property's garden. Maybe the road, maybe the front garden of the house opposite if you park your car in the road. So if they turn around and say they don't want you to record them, how can you, there's no actual way that you can then protect your vehicle out on the road. Absolutely crazy. What happens if I break the law? Hold on a minute. This does not mean you're breaking the law. So you need to comply with legal obligations under the data protection law. I've covered that already, but how can they say it doesn't mean you're breaking the law? And then here say, if you fail to comply with your obligations under the DPA laws, you may be subject to enforcement action by the ICOs. Could include a fine. You may also be subject to legal action by affected individuals who can pursue court claims for compensation. So is it illegal? Are you breaking the law or not? Don't tell me I'm not breaking the law and then fucking bait and switch. That's what it is, isn't it? Well, yeah, that's all right. We'll tell them they're not breaking the law. They probably won't read all of this anyway, and then we'll fucking have them and get a nice little fine out of them. Absolute tossers. So if you follow our guidance and take all reasonable steps to comply with your data protection obligations, the ICO is unlikely to regard you as a regulatory risk. So the ICO will be unlikely to think that taking enforcement action against you was a proportionate use of its resources. Too fucking right it isn't. Absolutely. What else should I think about? Before you install the system, consider speaking to your neighbours and explaining what you're doing. I think most people probably would, if it's like a camera that is going on the side of your property, for example, that could capture the side of their property. Or in the rear garden, if you have a camera high enough and your fences are low enough, then it may be that you're going to capture somebody in the garden sunbathing or something like that. So I think in that situation, you're going to knock on and say, look, I'm putting up a camera, just letting you know. But when you put one outside the front of your house, I don't see the point of that whatsoever. Listen to any objections or concerns they may have. Fuck you. If I want to protect my property and my car and the boundary of my property, my home is my castle, and you telling me you don't want me to put a camera up can go and fuck right off, mate. It may also be useful to invite your neighbours to view the footage you capture. Yeah, let's have a fucking weekly, video capture evening. Get the old widescreen out or the projector and let's all sit down and watch you walking out your house in the morning and get in your car. And then coming home again at night. And then maybe walking off to go to the shop. And then the next day going out to your car to go to work. And then 8 hours later coming home again. You know, who the fuck wants to watch that? This may relieve any concerns they have about your use of CCTV. Well, I'm pretty sure if your CCTV captures somebody breaking into their fucking house for them, I'm pretty sure that will relieve any concerns they have. It may also avoid disputes escalating or complaints being made about your recording. Well, again, fuck you. If you don't like it, tough shit. The phrase domestic CCTV system refers to the use of any video surveillance equipment mounted or fixed on your home. It can include cameras fitted to doorbells. Again, this is ridiculous because, first of all, nobody's going to know that you've got a fucking camera on your doorbell, especially if they're driving past. Now, let's say your house is opposite a road. Let's say a road comes out onto a T-junction and you're directly opposite that road. So you're going to capture number plates and faces, potentially, of people coming towards you and turning left or right, or people turning into that road and driving away from you. Now, what are you expected to do? That camera, generally, if it's on a doorbell, will only go off when somebody approaches it or when somebody presses the button. Therefore, generally, they're going to be standing in front of it. Therefore, generally, you're not going to capture anyone behind it. So, what? Are you supposed to, you know, go through your camera every night, write down the number plates of everybody, and then try and track them down to say to them, oh, by the way, I caught your car going into this road yesterday at fucking 4:32 p.m. Just wondered if you'd like a copy of the video. It's only 6 seconds long, but hey, fuck it. You should also remember, or you should remember, that the use of domestic CCTV system may be appropriate, but publicly uploading or streaming footage of identifiable people would need more justification. In most cases, it would not be justifiable. Well, nobody gives a shit about people that are just going about their normal daily business. Who the fuck is going to upload that? That's the first thing. Second thing, if somebody approaches your property, they come onto your property, which is invading your privacy, then fuck them. You don't need to register with the ICO or pay a fee. Oh, that's very fucking kind of you. This is a change from the previous law. How remarkably wonderful of you. However, you must maintain records of how and why you are capturing these images and for how long you are keeping them. You may need to make those records available to the ICO on request. Now, this is just absolutely ridiculous. All of this is absolutely ridiculous. Some common sense bits in there, but the majority of this, well, I mean, even the common sense bits, it's just ridiculous to put it in. And then to say this does not mean you're breaking the law, but it means that as a CCTV user, blah, 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 needs to comply with your legal obligations, blah, blah, blah. But then down here, it says what happens if you break the law. I mean, what the fuck are you trying to do? Catch people out, and so you can get them in shit. Now, with regards to filming in public, so being out on the streets with a camera or whatever it might be, I cannot find at the moment anything that suggests that you cannot film anybody in public. The only things that I've been able to find, I'll start with this one here actually. This is the IAC, or Film and Video Institute. It says here, basically, in public, movie makers, this isn't just for movie makers, by the way, this is for anybody that wants to video or take photo in a public place. So amateur movie makers, whether IAC members or not, are unlikely in the course of normal movie making in a public place to have any problems with the police unless they're causing an obstruction. Now that's a load of shit, as we all know. Neither members of the media nor the general public need permits to film or photograph in public places, and police officers have no power to stop you filming or photographing incidents or police personnel. Well, that's a joke as well, isn't it? If your filming is questioned by a police officer, explain calmly and politely what you're doing. Follow any advice given by the officer. No, because they're just going to tell you to piss off because they don't like it when they're on camera, because it shows them up. Chief police officers have made it clear that only highly unusual circumstances should prevent the taking of pictures in a public place. You can download their statements from the Association of Chief Police Officers, which we've all seen, and we all know that most of the police just don't care about that anyway. It might be useful to print them out and carry them with you. Well, I did, and I still got told it was a load of shit. So if a police officer insists that you stop filming, then do so. You don't have to. If a police officer can insist all they like, but you don't have to turn it off. The only time that you have to turn it off is if you're under arrest, really, because they're going to take it off you anyway. But other than that, there's nothing to say that you have to turn it off. There may be security issues of which you are unaware. In that case, they can explain those security issues. And if they are deemed serious enough, then anybody really is going to probably turn their camera off or move away. However, many police officers and to a greater extent private security staff are quick to quote the Terror Act in order to prevent people taking images. You do have freedom to film, but the police can and will on occasions use a section of the Terrorism Act to question your ID and why you are filming. Always carry your IAC membership card with you. Well, again, you don't have to give any information. That act of the Terrorism Act is no longer in play. That was section 44 and that's been repealed. So the only thing they can do now is to try and do you for section 50 of the Police Reform Act, which is what they've done me for. This is funny. It is always best to cooperate, and as long as you do, most police officers will generally allow you to continue. I could hear you all laughing right there. So in private, technically all of Britain is owned by somebody. Owners may be private individuals, companies, organisations, or the Queen. For example, a public park is probably owned by the local town council. Any of those landlords can and often will impose limits on photography or filmmaking as they wish. Mostly these landlords will not restrict non-commercial photography, but commercial work often requires permission and sometimes payment. A licence or permit may be required if you're filming an event where the organisers and or the owner's permission is needed. In practice, taking pictures from the public highway or many places generally accessible to the public is unlikely to be challenged. Yeah, that's another joke. Council-owned parks and buildings, transport stations, church properties, shopping malls, theatres, stadiums and the like usually do enforce restrictions. Filming on public transport is the same as on private land. You do need the owner or operator's consents. Network Rail release guidelines, as have many of the other train and bus operators. Now, filming people, no one can copyright their own appearance. Britain does not have specific guarantees of privacy in law, so no one can stop you filming them, provided you're not breaking some other law to do so, such as trespassing. Be careful not to film people in what they might reasonably believe to be a private situation, for example, changing rooms, or on a beach, or toilets, sunbathing in their garden, etc., which is what I've just said about if you're going to put a camera up in your back garden. On the beach, I think if anybody, is got their camera out, it's going to be focused on maybe their kids playing. Not really going to be, panning around and zooming in and catching people getting changed. Do you know what I mean? There is no law against photographing or filming children, providing the images are decent in nature. It's still wise to obtain permission, which this is what I've said previously in previous videos as well. Nothing wrong with filming children. I know some people are against it and they really don't like it. But if the images aren't indecent, then I don't see there being too much of a problem. If I haven't got a daughter, but if I had a daughter and let's say she was wearing a dress and she was on a slide or something, I would question somebody who was filming her coming down a slide, for example. But if she was running through the park, like running all over the place, from one, piece of equipment to another, and she just happened to get caught on camera, for me that wouldn't be a problem. But again, I know that some people do find that as a problem. And so I have said in previous videos that, try and get permission if you can. But even if they don't give you permission, there's nothing they can do. As human to human, as a human being to another human being, it's always polite to ask first. So when you ask for permission to film children, it can often be useful to keep the camera running when that permission is granted. You then have a record. So again, this comes back to making sure that every interaction you have is recorded from the earliest possible moment. If you're going to approach a police officer, make sure your camera is rolling before that interaction. That way, nothing can ever be denied, and nobody can make anything up. Schools, which are private premises, do usually forbid it. So be sensible in your filming. If you're filming upsets somebody, try to calm the situation and, if necessary, stop. Now, something I hate schools, but something I've always said about schools since you weren't allowed to take video or photos anymore is who the fuck is taking videos and photos? The person who is taking videos and photos could well be sick in the head. Do you know what I mean? It's either allow everybody or don't allow anybody at all, as far as I'm concerned. We know that there are teachers out there that are paedophiles and, all sorts of fucked up crazy. We know that. So what's to say that the teacher or the outside company that has come in to do the video and photographing, who's to say that there's not something wrong with them? I hate it when the school's done this. It really pissed me off. And then they charge you for the privilege of it. We're stopping you from taking pictures and videos, and we're going to charge you for the privilege of letting us do it instead. Yeah, well done. Be careful about filming in prohibited places without permission. Typical prohibited places include military establishments, aircraft and ships. Most airports, naval dockyards and military communications centre. You may be challenged by security forces. Once again, polite explanation. But there is nothing there about ICO regulations, data protection law. This Griffin House consultancy is to do with data protection and information governance. It's a UK-based company. Let's go on to Dashcams here. Do you need to notify the ICO? The UK is seeing an explosion in the use of dashcam cameras, and we have been asked a few times what is the position with regards to the Data Protection Act. There is very little guidance out there, and so thought that the following advice might be useful. Firstly, dashcams are not classed as CCTV, as they are not fixed and focused on monitoring a specific area, and so not covered within the ICO's CCTV Code of Conduct. Then I would suggest, guys, if you are getting a CCTV camera, let's call it a camera. If you're getting a security camera and you get one that moves side to side, the ones that pan around like a fan. You know how a desktop fan will pan? I'm not a poet. If you get one of those, then it's not fixed and it's not monitoring a specific area. I mean, you could, if they turn around and then say to you, well, it's monitoring, you know, the left-hand side of your garden, the front of your garden, and the right-hand side of your garden. Well, then when you're driving your car to work every day and home again every day, you're monitoring the same area, aren't you? You're taking that route every single day, and most people always take the same route. So at least 5 days out of the week, you're going to be monitoring and focused on a specific area, the area that you travel to. Do you know what I mean? So obviously filming in sensitive areas such as outside military barracks may get you in trouble. See the Met Police guidelines, and other areas to avoid incident where children, or include where children are playing. Again, there's nothing against in law suggesting that you can't do that. But again, one human being to another, if you can ask, then I would suggest asking. When recording in public places, other considerations will come into play. This guide from the London Borough of Richmond is very useful in highlighting the main elements. As dashboard cams are not covered by the legislation, you do not need to notify the ICO, nor is signage required, which is obligatory for non-domestic CCTV cameras. Well, it seems it's obligatory for domestic CCTV cameras as well, based on what the ICO have said. So, however, if dashboard cams are on a work or commercial vehicle, then a member of the public has the right under Section 7 of the DPA to make a subject access request to review the footage, which contains their image. For that reason, a sign saying how they can apply for this may be warranted, but not currently compulsory. Inward-facing cameras, however, are a different kettle of fish, as these will have greater privacy concerns for individuals and come under the rules for monitoring staff. Data controllers will need to conduct a privacy impact assessment and have to justify the use on a case-by-case basis. Well, then that's to do with like taxi drivers with their cameras facing inwards to capture the people in the back in case somebody tries to rob the taxi driver. So there is nothing within the legislation to stop an organisation installing these cameras if it is proportionate to the problem it is addressing, but relations between management and staff may be tested. And the ICO may have questions if over-monitoring is employed without serious reasons for doing so. It seems to be the only information really that I can find on a reputable, what I would call a reputable website. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave it there. I think I've explained my stance and why I think that ICO and police reasoning is going to cause some serious problems. You can't say that it's not a crime and then say, you can't say you're not breaking the law and then say that, you're breaking the law if you do this, that and the other. And also, how can you say, as ICO, which is a government body, how can you say, that you can't monitor the boundary of your garden, really, in case you capture somebody walking past? And the police ask people for footage all the time, and it's useful in helping to track people down. So the ICO is just a complete and utter fucking spunk bubble, to be honest. Don't know where that word come from. Never used that one before, I don't think. But it's absolutely ridiculous how the ICO information conflicts with much of what the police say. And I think that by putting homeowners under regulation of camera recording equipment on their property, I think is going to cause serious problems for the police. So when it comes to, protection and looking for missing people or evidence, I think there's going to be a very big problem between the police and the ICO. I mean, imagine if we all stopped using cameras, video cameras, which I wouldn't recommend. But imagine if we all stopped having CCTV on our properties, how many people wouldn't get found? Scary thought. Anyway, I'm leaving it there, guys. I just thought I'd do this just as something different for the channel, but it is stupid, so I thought I'd better put it on here just to share it with you. So I hope you learned something today. If you didn't, then I apologise for wasting, half an hour of your time. But if you did, awesome. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe or share this with anybody you might think needs it. Until next time.
Good night, all.